Need your daily fix on mixed martial arts?
We're going to kind of recap Bellator 155.
From UFC 198.
Who's who?
Kind of a controversial decision.
And who's not?
I couldn't figure out why, and then it hit me.
Well, don't you fret, because Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your daily dose of MMA podcasts. Everything from the UFC, Bellator Fighting Championship, Extreme Cage Fighting, Invicta Fighting Championship, and so much more. Join us as we talk about some of the biggest names in mixed martial arts. We've got you covered here on Golden State Media Concepts MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Arnel De Leon, and hopefully your day is going well. Wherever you are, whoever you are, hopefully your day is going well. The year of 2020 is right about to end. The holidays is right around the corner. I just covered the last Bellator Championship fight / events. I'm also by the way, next week I'll be covering the final One Championship event, which is the Big Bang Part 2. But right now I'll be covering the last UFC pay-per-view event of the year. And this event, wow, UFC 256 was certainly a spectacular show from top to bottom. And what better place to start off with than with the main event, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno for the UFC Flyweight title. Now, before I talk in this fight, I gotta say that I'm proud. I am really proud of where the flight division was earlier this year to where it is now. And a lot of that has to go towards Deiveson Figueiredo, but also some of that also has to go to fighters like Demetrius Johnson and Henry Cejudo. I saw a recent video from MMA On Point where it's talking about how the UFC fight division, it went from this super boring division that people just were not interested in, with a dominant fighter as a champion in Demetrius Johnson, and the fact that I still remember this. I still remember reading this up in the sense that Dana White and some other UFC execs were really disappointed and upset that Demetrius Johnson would rather fight Ray Borg than TJ Dillashaw. And here's the thing, I thought it would be a dream fight. TJ Dillashaw versus Demetrius Johnson still is, to me, a dream fight. I would not know who would actually win between those two if those sort of fights. And of course, TJ Dillashaw, when he was now we all know TJ Dillashaw, the guy is a cheater. But during his time as the bantamweight champion, one could argue that he was probably the most exciting fighter at the time, and was on a roller coaster. The guy had a whole lot of heat behind the dude. Meanwhile, with Demetrius Johnson, who everyone accepts is a great champion, but he can't pull the numbers in. He doesn't bring people into the seats. And I'm not knocking Demetrius Johnson. The guy is great. I still say he is the greatest flyweight of all time. And the post-fight presser, somebody asked Dana White, hey, what was the thing that made the UFC flyweight division really good? And Dana White gave really vague answers saying, oh man, we just tweaked some aspects of the flyweight division. I didn't know what the tweaks are. I'm guessing it's some top fighters from the flyweight division were being let off. A couple of them were being laid off, and a couple of them new ones started coming in, like Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno here. And so, looking at the current state of the flyweight division, it's in a really good position. And it's especially in a really good position after this fight, which, by the way, won Fight of the Night, and is a candidate for Fight of the Year, with Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. Now, both these fighters are coming off just 1 month ago. 1 month ago, they both won their respective bouts in dominant fashion. So, Brandon Moreno here is coming in here as a huge underdog here. Deiveson Figueiredo is coming in as the heavy favorite. And it's without a doubt the most exciting flyweight bouts I've ever seen in UFC history. Dana White believes it. In the bottom left-hand screen of when you watch the UFC pay-per-view events, it shows the Twitter reactions and what people are saying. The commentary team are saying it's an absolute spectacular fight. If you go on social media, people are going to say, wow, that was without a doubt easily the best fight of the night. And it had some really tough competition. It had Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira and Mackenzie Dern versus Verno Generoba. Those two fights could have also been fight of the years or fight of the night contenders. But instead we go for Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno here, and here's how I viewed the fight. The way you view the fight between Moreno and Deiveson Figueiredo, it's all up to you, but I would say the majority of people believe that Figueiredo won that fight. But it's also really close. It really was. Now, Deiveson Figueiredo was able to... Okay, Figueiredo didn't really win the fight. It was a majority draw with one person voting for Figueiredo. And in the third round, there was a low blow, which deducted 1 point from Figueiredo. So, hypothetically speaking, purely hypothetical, if Figueiredo did not get the -1 deduction points, it was a real possibility, very probable, that Deiveson Figueiredo would have won the fight still. And so, without the -1 points, it would have been Figueiredo winning. With the -1 point, it would have been Figueiredo winning one judge over the three and two other judges scoring it as a draw. And they probably scored it in the favor of Deiveson Figueiredo, but the only reason why they didn't do that is because of the -1 point here. So I think it was very obvious as how I viewed it. Deiveson Figueiredo won the fight in the judge when I look at the judges. But also looking at it, I say Figueiredo, rounds 1 through 3, he won. 1, 2, 3, 5th round. Those are the 3 rounds I believe Deiveson Figueiredo truly won. Now they were close, but I believe Figueiredo just edged him out just a wee bit. It was in the 3rd and 4th round where things started to become very interesting in this fight. With Deiveson Figueiredo, he low kicked low on Brandon Moreno in his private parts. It was loud, it was stiff, and I am shocked how Brandon Moreno was able to recover within the span of, I think, 2 minutes and 8 seconds of this bout here. And you could hear Joe Rogan, you could Daniel Cormier, they're like, oh my goodness, Brandon Moreno, man, can he even compete? Can he even compete? Oh wow, because, dude, Brandon Moreno, he fell down like a sack of potatoes from that from that low kick. He fell down, he's holding his stomach, the guy is spitting out blood. The dude was pretty much in the fetal position for 2 minutes. So I believed it was correct for the referees to go take off 1 point off Deiveson Figueiredo. And I think this is also a rule change, because I do remember that if you, in some fights, obviously in the past, if you do an eye poke, okay, it still is an issue with eye pokes now, but if you do like a low kick or an eye poke, if it's very severe, then you are automatically given not a warning, but a minus point. If it ain't severe, then you give just a warning. Now, obviously, Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier, that fight needs to be re-examined again, but that's in the past. This is the present here. Figueiredo, he kicks him in the low parts, minus 1 point, not a warning because that was a vicious low kick. And Moreno, despite getting low kicked, ended up having a really darn good third round, because there was still like a couple minutes left in the third round, and he just went all berserk on Figueiredo. And in the 4th round, Figueiredo was stunned multiple times in the fight. And it was in the 5th round to which I thought, okay, if Moreno can win off in this 5th round, if he can, because here's the thing, if Moreno won the 3rd round, I believe he won the 3rd round, but if the judges perceived him winning that 3rd round, he would be up 10-8. Because then it would be, that's how I viewed it, 1st round, 2nd round, Deiveson Figueiredo. 3rd round, including the low shot negative points, Brandon Moreno winning. Then it would be 10-9, 10-9, 3rd round, then it would be 10-8. So they would be tied going into the 4th and 5th round. And in the 4th round here, Moreno, I believe, won. In the 5th round, Deiveson Figueiredo, I believe, won. So, yeah, it's understandable as to why the result would be majority draw. We have one judge, strangely enough, he scored, I believe he scored one fight to be 1 round, I think the 3rd round, in favor of Deiveson Figueiredo. That's why in the judges' scorecards, with the exception of one judge, 2 judges scored as a draw. And I hate harping on the judges here, but one judge scored it, Brandon Moreno winning in the 5th round. And I'm like, what? How? Like, how did you judge these fights? I want these judges each round, I don't know, have the camera point at the judges. Have their faces there, have their names there, the lower thirds, judge, experience of like 36 years, whatever, 20 years, and just have them quickly, like in a short couple sentences, explain why they believe they scored one way or the other. That's all I'm looking for here. You can increase the time these fighters are taking to be in their corners by maybe just 2 minutes, alright then? All I'm asking for the judges to like give me a brief, like 20, maybe 30 second, like reasoning as to why they believe fighter A won that round. That's all I'm asking for. Increase the timer for these fighters to take their rest in their corners each round by another 2 minutes. I'm not asking a lot there. I really am not. And so, what made this fight really exciting was the fact that both of these are proper stats. I'm just going to give the fight stats here, by the way. Because it's really hard to explain round by round how this fight went, because it really was just both fighters just throwing haymakers out there. It really was a matter of who threw and landed the most successful amount of like strikes. That pretty much was it. There was some wrestling that was happening here, but the wrestling aspect of this of the fighter was so inconsequential. Yes, there were in total 12 takedowns. There were 12 takedown attempts in this fight, and there were 6 takedowns that successfully succeeded. But the fight was so fast, and both dudes are so good at defensive grappling that the grappling aspect of the fight really didn't matter that much here. And I am a firm believer that you really shouldn't automatically give points to a fighter if they just get a takedown. I believe if they get a takedown and there's some control, like from top to bottom, then that's when they should be rewarded for the grappling. But if it's like takedown, then they stand up, or takedown, and the person from the bottom is defending themselves really well, and then they just get back up within the span of like 30 to 40 seconds, and the person on top really didn't do much, then I don't think you should reward a fighter for who was the one engaging the takedown. That's what I believed. And so while this fight here, there was some takedowns, it was mostly in the stand-up here that really showed who was the better fighter. And bringing some fight stats here, because the eye test is very difficult, Deiveson Figueiredo attempted 238 strikes, 10 less than Brandon Moreno, who attempted 248 strikes. Meanwhile, Deiveson Figueiredo landed 5 more strikes succeeding over Brandon Moreno with 137 over 132. So Deiveson Figueiredo, if you go by fight stats, he was the more efficient fighter. Now, if you go to Brandon Moreno, he landed 2 more takedowns. He attempted double the amount of takedowns. So Figueiredo attempted 4 takedowns, landed 2. Brandon Moreno attempted 8 takedowns, landed 4. Neither of them really took advantage of the takedowns here. There was one instance in the end of the 3rd round where Moreno could have possibly stolen it, because like in the final 1 minute of the fight, he started studying Deiveson Figueiredo and he got knocked down on Figueiredo, and then he started doing some ground and pound from top to bottom. But then the bell sounded, and so how much could you really reward the guy for that final 1 minute stretch of the 3rd round? But you know what? I'm not a judge. Look how I saw it. Figueiredo rounds 1, 2, 5, and then Moreno 3, 4. 3 is a maybe in terms of the -1 points and who actually won that round. So all in all, it was a spectacular fight. Amazing fight. I recommend anybody to go watch it. Brandon Moreno, man, this is a tough hombre, right? He is a prideful, tough Mexican fighter, as do all tough Mexican fighters who compete in combat sports. And I would love to see Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo again. I really do. I really want that. I want to see these two guys fight it out, because the reason why Brandon Moreno wasn't as active in the 5th round, which is so puzzling to me, because the dude was like incredibly active. He dominated the 4th round, but then in the 5th round, he slowed down. He just slowed down, and it didn't make that much sense why he did slow down. It wasn't because of fatigue, because he didn't look fatigued. And Joe Rogan pointed out that his left arm was kind of paralyzed. It was kind of stunned. He really couldn't move at all. He's not throwing any strikes with his left arm. And apparently, by the end of the 4th round, Brandon Moreno, he popped his left shoulder. And so he wasn't able to deliver a high volume of strikes going to the 5th round here. But if that didn't happen, there was once again a real possibility Brandon Moreno could have ran away with the victory. And so I want to run it back. Let's run it back between Brandon Moreno and Deiveson Figueiredo. One more time here. One more time, Moreno became a star from this fight. Figueiredo, by the end of this year, became a star fighter. So let's have Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo coming up at some point in the year 2021. I would be excited to rewatch that fight again. You're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast. Coming back after the short break here as I discuss UFC 256. See you soon.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. And so yes, the Figueiredo versus Moreno fight, that was definitely fight of the night. But I will say this though, performance of the night, to my opinion, my personal MVP goes to Charles Oliveira. I kept saying over and over again for the span of a year, look out for this guy. Look out for this guy. Look out for Charles Oliveira. This dude is a killer. And look what happened here. So one of my friends, he immediately called me up and he said to me, "Oh, dude, did you see the Charles Oliveira Tony Ferguson fight?" He didn't say the Figueiredo fight. He didn't say the Moreno fight. He didn't say the John Roba fight. He only said, "Did you see the Tony Ferguson fight? You saw what happened?" Charles Oliveira had an armbar on Tony Ferguson, and Tony Ferguson, being the wildcat that he is, doesn't tap out. Cinched in, perfect armbar, regular, normal, average Joes. Actually, most MMA fighters, most of the toughest people on earth would tap out to Charles Oliveira's armbar. But Tony Ferguson, he didn't do that. And Dana White in the post-fight presser, he ended up saying that he wanted to see the old Tony Ferguson. And I'm thinking about this right now. So, the old Tony Ferguson, well, some people might say that he is in the decline, that he is kind of washed up. My friend, when he was discussing the Oliveira-Ferguson fight, he said, "Oh man, dude, Ferguson, he's on a downhill slope." Meanwhile, Dana White, when asked a question about what his thoughts were on Tony Ferguson coming off, 2 losses, he said that, you know what, we might be seeing the downslope of Tony Ferguson. And I'm thinking about this right now. And I'm like, downslope? The dude just fought against 2 top contenders. 2 top title contenders in the lightweight division. Give him a fight against Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier. And it's very likely, that's like how I viewed it, it's very likely that Tony Ferguson could beat either of those 2 fighters. Have Tony Ferguson fight against Kevin Lee again. See what happens. I'm pretty sure Ferguson can beat that. Ferguson is, I wouldn't say he is in the downslope, but in the sense that all this competition have grown and developed to become better fighters. Because Charles Oliveira, by the way, I like the idea that there's like new narrative behind Charles Oliveira, that he's like young prospect guy. Like he's a young prospect guy trying to go take over. I'm like, no, what do you mean? This dude's a proper journeyman. He's, I think, 3, maybe 4 years younger than Tony Ferguson. He competed for the UFC back in 2010. Charles Oliveira has always been with the UFC. He's always been there. But only now, it took 10 years for people to finally acknowledge Charles Oliveira for being a legitimate great fighter. Now, yes, Tony Ferguson, he's a really darn good fighter right now. It just, I believe that Tony Ferguson, he just fought better fighters. I'm not discrediting Tony Ferguson saying like, oh man, he's washed up. No, he's on a downslope. No, it's more of a sense that he fought against two legitimate future world champions in Gaethje and Charles Oliveira. What I'm hoping though, what I really am hoping for, is that maybe the biggest thing I'm mostly upset about Khabib retiring, is that we won't see Khabib versus Oliveira. I've been saying it for the better part of a year now, in that if there's anybody in the lightweight division who could defeat Khabib, it would be Charles Oliveira. And it was showcased here. Charles Oliveira, in both his striking and his spectacular jiu-jitsu game, his spectacular grappling game, was on point in this fight here. Tony Ferguson is very similar to Oliveira in terms of styles, but Charles Oliveira is just a little bit, actually not even a little bit, he's just so much more better. He's so much more better, which leads to Charles Oliveira, now, without a doubt, he's officially in the top 5. He's in the top 5. So, the people who are considered to be I'm speculating right now, we're going to see an interim title fight. I know Dana White has not said it, but I'm pretty sure with Khabib Nurmagomedov, with him running his own mixed martial arts promotion, he won't have the time to fight. So, the way how I see it, who are the future potential champions for the lightweight division? We've got Dustin Poirier. We got Charles Oliveira. Justin Gaethje. And then Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler, for some strange reason, I don't believe that they should get a title fight or become champion anytime soon for the UFC, but there are two names who are being thrown out there who could potentially fight in the top 5. I do not know what the status is for Michael Chandler. I don't know who he's going to fight. It would be hysterical if there was an offer given to Charles Oliveira being like, hey Oliveira, fight against Michael Chandler. Even when Charles Oliveira has been challenging Michael Chandler in the latter half of 2020. When Michael Chandler got signed, one of the first people to challenge Michael Chandler was Charles Oliveira. Go look up the tweets. Go look up the reports. Look at the articles. Oliveira was one of the first fighters to challenge Chandler the second he got to the lightweight division. And guess what happened? Chandler, he talked about it. Not only just Chandler, like other fighters talked about it, and even Oliveira speculated this, in the sense that it didn't make much sense for Chandler to fight against Oliveira, since Oliveira isn't a top 5 ranked fighter, and Michael Chandler is expected to fight against somebody who is in the top 5. And not only was Oliveira outside of top 5, the guy is legitimately good enough to beat members of the top 5, which included Tony Ferguson this past weekend. So now, there's a real possibility an offer sheet is thrown out there. Hey, Oliveira, fight against Michael Chandler. I would love Oliveira to just say no. Like, no, I challenged Chandler, and now that I'm a top-ranked fighter, now you're the one challenging me? No, that's not how it works, okay? I want Michael Chandler to fight against somebody outside the top 5. We could still see Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler, because Charles Oliveira came into this fight as a number 6 ranked fighter, and now that he defeated Tony Ferguson, it logically makes sense that Tony Ferguson is now the current number 6 ranked guy. So, Ferguson, Chandler, that's the fight I want to see. And if we're not going to see Khabib against Oliveira, we should see Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. We're going to have Dustin Poirier against Conor McGregor happening in January. And the winner of those two respective bouts, the Poirier Conor McGregor and the Gaethje Oliveira fight, winner of that will then go fight for the title. And if Khabib is not available by the time 2 of those 4 fighters are readily available to fight each other for a title, then it should be stripped. Then it should be official champion. But if we're getting reports that Khabib is not retiring, then that should be for an interim title. There should be stability for the lightweight division by mid-2021. That's what I'm saying right now. There should be some stability. I don't think Khabib is going to make a comeback. Dana White is very sure that Khabib is not over in his fighting career. Well, we just have to wait and see. And so Tony Ferguson, recently on social media, specifically in Instagram, oh my goodness, there's a very, oh my gosh. So on Tony Ferguson's Instagram, he posted an image, and it's that thing where there are suction cups on your body, which like swells up parts of your body. It looks pretty darn disgusting, but I've seen it on like multiple competitors do this. It's just, you know what? I don't want to see it. Okay, I don't want to see it. But Tony Ferguson on his Instagram, he posted it. He issued a statement right after the fight. He went on to say, "My crew, no excuses. I fell flat. I went out and welcomed the attack instead of defend. The warm-up time in the back for UFC hasn't been the same since pre-COVID. Still no excuses. Times change, and so do people. The time from people to UFC Apex is much more condensed, and the aggressive level we needed was not reached. My fault." After the fight, we were checked by doctors and went back to the hotel. I felt it was in order to hit pads, spar immediately because the fight was fresh in my mind and blood circulation in my arm was needed. I really need to figure out what the effing problem was from the fight. Solution: pre-fight time management. Chuck was looking to take my back or go to the armbar as soon as we hit the mat. Thus, I didn't worry about the mount. Kid was slick, but so am I. I was looking for the knockout standing in DARS from bottom position once we hit jiu-jitsu transitions. It was fun fighting against a wet blanket, aka heavy pressure opponents. Mark my words, that scenario won't happen again. Period. My arm is alright. The armbar was really tight. The thought of my son, Armin Anthony's ability to be double jointed in his elbow during the sequence and my mental capacity to endure pain got me through it. Hashtag breathe. Hashtag mental. Hashtag toughness. Hashtag number 1. I'm beyond grateful and thankful for my talents. I have learned so much about myself the year and what my purpose in my life is. My search for that epic word called greatness isn't over. Understand, crew, we are far from being retired. So a message to my haters, shabam. I'm not joking, he says shabam and has a middle finger emoji. Shout out to my team. I put together on 3 weeks notice. We still green. Boys, thanks for not deserting me. Team, we barely scratching the surface to what we can truly accomplish. And for that I say amen. It was great making weight and being around my fight fam around the week. I can't wait till we compete in front of a big loud crowd again. It's not the same without you all. So, Tony Ferguson, he says he's still game. He's still game. He ain't gonna retire. But we need to know what happens for Ferguson. You know, whatever happens to Ferguson, his next fight really will determine how we truly see the guy. Is he washed up and does he need to retire? Or is he good enough to have one last run amongst the top 5? That's what's happening here. How did Charles Oliveira defeat Tony Ferguson? Easy. Because, first of all, Charles Oliveira fights at an insanely high pace. In every fight you see of Charles Oliveira, that guy forces and he dictates the pace. Like, he's a lot more chaotic than Colby Covington and a lot more sporadic in his strikes. Because most of his strikes, for the most part, don't make sense. Charles Oliveira in the stand-up plays a lot like a video game character in the sense that he's just throwing everything at you. You're giving your opponent no room to breathe. No room. This is what I do with my friends and my cousin whenever we play the UFC games. And then we just hold L1, press X, press square, like always going full on forward. No one is backing away, except sometimes I do that. But for the most part, we don't back away from each other. We go full throttle. We're always purely on offense. And that's what Charles Oliveira does. Because here's the thing with Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, for as good of a striker he is really open to the idea of trading shots. He's open to trading shots, and it takes time for him to download the necessary information he needs to go for a right counter hit. It's kind of similar to the Lomachenko fight, Lomachenko's last recent fight, to which Lomachenko, he is a really darn good striker and a boxer. But the problem with Lomachenko is that he has a tendency in the early rounds to just give it up for his opponents. Like, he's giving up advantage in the early rounds for the sake of downloading information. So by the halfway point of the fight, he can go and find a really good counter hit or just pretty much take you out by the latter half of the fight. That's how Lomachenko fights. And for Tony Ferguson, it's somewhat kind of similar. You could even see this with his Anthony Pettis fights, or when he fights Don Cerrone, in that he is open to being rocked by his opponent in order to find a proper opening where he can go counter and go for the knockout real finish. And I'm pretty sure Tony Ferguson here, in his Instagram, he did in fact say that he was looking to win via stand-up. But the amount of pressure, the insanely high pace that Charles Oliveira did onto Tony Ferguson was just a wee bit too much in Ferguson. And he was constantly mixing up, whether it be low kick, body kick, to a reverse elbow, to a spinning elbow, to a high kick. The dude is fighting at an insanely high pace with a large variety of moves that there's no way Ferguson can go download all the information he needs in such a short amount of time in a 3-round fight. And also, Tony Ferguson, for as good as of a jiu-jitsu fighter he is, there is no comparing him versus the greatest submission artist in the lightweight division's history, and Charles Oliveira. So I do believe that Ferguson, the only way he would be able to defeat Charles Oliveira is in the stand-up. But it takes time for Ferguson to understand and recognize where his spots and openings are for the fight. So it was a wee bit of like too little too late for Ferguson's part. Also, Ferguson, he just endured so much damage. Ferguson was overwhelmed by the pressure of Charles Oliveira, and there's no way he could bounce back from that pressure. He was too damaged. He was way too hurt, even by the midpoint of the second round, that there was no way he'd be able to recover, which led to Charles Oliveira winning the fight. And he fought Oliveira's game. The winner of the fight usually goes to the fighter who dictates the pace. Charles Oliveira dictated the pace of the fight, thus is the reason why he won. You're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast. Coming back after a short break here as I discuss more UFC action. Coming back soon.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. And so the next fight here I'll be covering is going to be the Cyril Gans versus Junior Dos Santos fight. And of course, you don't want to see your heroes go fall down here, but between Cyril Gans... I'm looking at this right now, and there's not even an image. If you go on Google right now... Actually, I'm on Bing. So I went to Bing, and then I type up UFC, where it gives me a complete list of the fight cards, and also it gives me fight stats. It's really convenient that I can type up the Deiveson Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno fight, and it's going to give me the per round stats. And I got here for Junior Dos Santos and Cyril Gans. So what's very hysterical here is that Cyril Gans, despite his incredibly good performance, and he is now officially in the top 10 of the heavyweight rankings, he doesn't even have a picture. He doesn't have a picture. Billy Quarantillo does not have a picture. Daniel Pineda doesn't have a picture. But oh my goodness, Sam Hughes does not have a picture. There are a lot of fighters who, for some reason or another, on Google and on Bing, when you type up their names, just don't have a picture popping up. I don't know why that is, but Junior Dos Santos, JDS against Cyril Gans here. JDS, it's hard for me to say this, so this night was comprised of veterans, proper German fighters here, who may or may not be in the downturn of their careers, or at the very least in a point right now in their respective careers that's in the downslope. Junior Dos Santos, former heavyweight champion. I love the dude. He's one of my all-time greats, favorites. JDS, I say, is really underrated in the grand scheme of the UFC's history. Because if you say, okay, who are the greatest heavyweight champions of all time, JDS is one of them. JDS, I would say, obviously is higher than Brock Lesnar. I place him that high. If we're going to put Cain Velasquez in an incredible pedigree, at one point we would have said that Cain Velasquez was the greatest heavyweight of all time in UFC's history, we should have a discussion about JDS. He is up there. I would argue that he is top 3 all time in terms of heavyweight champions. I place him over Daniel Cormier. And I know Joe Rogan and Mano say, oh, damn it, Daniel Cormier, he's an all-time great. Yeah, he's an all-time great fighter, but in the heavyweight division, I say JDS is higher than Cormier. I say JDS has done more for the heavyweight division, without a doubt, more than Daniel Cormier. Now, with that being said, JDS, he ended up being knocked out in the second round of the fight here through a jab more than anything else. Through a jab, a quick short knee strike, and some ground and pound action here. But it was a combination of Cyril Gane here being he's a fighter that looks like he'd be a natural at heavyweight. Like, if Cyril Gane was at light heavyweight, he would smoke people. The way he moves is very similar to Alexander Gustafsson when he tried making his way to the heavyweight division, in the sense that the way how he moves is not tanky. He's got a very thin frame. He's very quick. And the way that he moves at a horizontal plane is incredibly quick. Now, you compare that to JDS here. The difference between JDS and Cyril Gane here was the fact that the striking proficiency of Cyril Gane's was far superior than JDS. And JDS, being the journeyman that he is, being right now, he was at top 10 or just a little bit outside top 10 right now due to this loss. He never was able to develop a fighting game that goes beyond just the boxing. JDS is one of the best strikers of all time in UFC history. I say he is pound for pound, the best striker in UFC's heavyweight history. I really do believe that. I'm also a firm believer that if we saw the peak version of JDS, and it was time for him when he was fighting Cain Velasquez, I would say Junior Dos Santos, peak version of him, can defeat Stipe Miocic. Peak version of him can go and defeat Daniel Cormier. Peak version of him could potentially defeat Brock Lesnar. I really do believe that. But he never developed, but in this current stage of where he is right now as a fighter, he never developed that alternative win condition, and I believe every fighter should develop an alternative win condition in the sense that if plan A doesn't work out, here's plan B. In this fight here, plan A worked out perfectly. It worked out perfectly in the sense of Cyril Gane here, who he was able to go for a leg kick, a body kick to a jab. There were multiple ways to which Cyril Gane can go and approach his opponent here. Cyril Gane here, he has the leg kicks. Leg kicks slowing down JDS. He landed several beautiful leg kicks onto JDS, which made him a lot more tentative in being overcommitted to any striking. And if JDS was able to go and get in close within the range of Cyril Gane here, then Charles Oliveira can go for a body kick. He can go for a leg kick. He can go for a body push kick. He can go for a high head kick, which he's connected with against JDS. And Joe Rogan said it best when he said that it's great for a kickboxer or for a Muay Thai striker or for anybody who specializes in leg kicks. It's great for them to fight somebody who doesn't want to wrestle, because then you are not penalized for the kicks. Of course, JDS, he can grab the kicks, but he is not quick enough, and his ability to go catch, openings, which you can go find and catch the kicks and find openings for him to go shoot in or threaten a takedown, just wasn't there. It wasn't there for JDS. JDS, he didn't even attempt a single takedown in this fight here. Yes, I know JDS isn't necessarily a good grappler. He has little to no grappling abilities over his years. I'm pretty sure he has some grappling ability. But against Cyril Gane here, that grappling ability should have been there. And I highly doubt that Cyril Gane, he can get away fighting against other fighters in the heavyweight division implement the same strategy. If you were to fight against some other fighters who are confident in their wrestling, confident, burrowing their way in there, going for grappling exchanges, then what Cyril Gans did here was spamming the leg kicks and the body kicks and head kicks would not work. But in this scenario, where he's fighting against a dude in JDS who just doesn't want to wrestle, and is primarily just headhunting this entire fight here, then yeah, Cyril Gans, he can do as much as he wants. Those kicks began to just work on JDS and fatigue him. So, by the beginning of the second round here, Joe Rogan then said, you know what? JDS, he has to be, committed. He has to be committed, and he has to be overly committed to actually trying to go and knock this guy out and press for the action. Because with the way how the fight was going, there is no way Junior Santos can go and defeat Cyril Gans. There's no way. And so, JDS did it. He tried to overcommit, and there were moments where Junior Dos Santos was able to overcommit and go for, fighting in close for dirty boxing. But then sadly, Cyril Gans here, a guy who most normally was kicking JDS his entire fight, decided to box, which threw off JDS. He didn't see the quick jab coming, and then when the jab struck him right in the chin, JDS already looked out, I could tell. Because the second you're punched, and instead of bobbing your head up, you're tilting your head up or bringing your arms up, he instead looked at the referee. He got punched in the face, looked at the referee, arms were down. Cyril Gans came over, knee strike, stuns JDS. JDS goes down like a sack of potatoes, and Cyril Gans was able to defeat the legend in the second round of the bouts. And Cyril Gans was outside of top 10 at this point. JDS was ranked number 7. So it is safe to say that Cyril Gans should be at the number 7th rank, or be at the very least anywhere near the top 10. Now, Junior Dos Santos. His last several fights has not been good for him. It really haven't. I'm trying to pull up here on what his last record, his past 5 fights performances are, because his past 5 fights were not all that good. Though I will say this: in his last fight where he had the mustache, looked pretty good on him. It did. But in his past 5 fights, he is 1-5. He is 1-5 in his past 5 fights. Good on him. He was able to make a whole lot of money in the year of 2020, fighting 3 times. He fought 3 times. In the past 6 fights, he's been knocked out. And the farthest he's ever gone was at the halfway point in the second round. The dude was able to make a whole lot of money. Considering JDS being a former champion, I will not be surprised if this dude banked in 6 figures per fight in the year of 2020, contrary to what his record is. So, I'm going to say this right now. In the past 5 fights, he's made, I say, maybe 150K to 250K. He fought 3 times, lost 3 times here. The dude made bank in the year of 2020. And we're at the point right now with JDS where I believe he is perfectly fine taking up fights and losing, even if it means for him being able to acquire some amount of money here. And Junior Dos Santos, he is 36. So both him and Tony Ferguson are the same age. Now Tony Ferguson, I believe Ferguson can still go at it. I need to see one more fight. I need to see one more fight from Tony Ferguson, and from then I can go and say, oh man, he's washed up. But for JDS, I think he's done. Once his UFC contract is done, I will not be surprised if the UFC cuts him. Will not be surprised. Actually, I won't be surprised if the UFC cuts him by the end of this month. There are still cuts happening. Dana White said in the month of December, there will be 60 more fighters who are being cut. And it doesn't matter if you are a prospect. It doesn't matter if you're a legend. It doesn't even matter if you're a top contender. The likelihood of you being cut is a real possibility. So for JDS, he was able to make his money in his past 3 fights in the year of 2020. So good on him for that, but I really don't want to see him back in the octagon. And so before I go to the commercial break, Kevin Holland versus Jacare Souza. Kevin Holland. One thing I love about the guy. Okay, so I still like his trash talking. Alright then. Mental warfare, there's not enough fighters trash talking in the actual octagon. It's one of the annoying parts about Colby Covington is the fact that he only trash talks when it comes to like mic time or promo time, or a lot of fighters, they just trash talk primarily when it's like, as it pertains to like doing promo work and stuff. But they don't trash talk ever in the actual octagon. And I don't see that. Chael Sonnen, the dude is really good with his words, but he doesn't trash talk at all, or talk smack, or he turns off the Chael character when it comes to an actual, like, fight. He's only the Chael the character during promos. But when he's Chael the fighter, it just turns off. And so with Kevin Holland, man, this dude is constantly mouthing off onto Jacare Souza. And I genuinely believe that it kind of got to him. It got to Jacare Souza in the head. He let his guard down just a wee bit. And what Kevin Holland did in this fight here, to which Jacare Souza, he fought Jacare Souza, he wrestled Holland. He fought the way how he was supposed to fight, but I say he was distracted, and you can tell by his fight here, he really was distracted by the trash talking of Kevin Holland. And what Kevin Holland did in this fight here is something that a lot of people who practice jiu-jitsu have a tendency of like actually adapting to, and it's this. So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, or if you like, I've been watching a lot of like, I know I have some friends who do active jiu-jitsu, and I've watched a bunch of like jiu-jitsu interviews and stuff. And one thing that occurs when it comes to jiu-jitsu is the fact that when you're doing sparring or when you're doing grappling exchanges, you have a tendency of letting yourself just allow the other person either overtake you in a grappling exchange, or, here's the next journey, you don't expect striking coming back from the bottom. And what Kevin Holland did, thank goodness, he didn't do the thing that a lot of fighters do. And this is like when they're taken down, they just try to grab on the back of the neck of the person that's on top of them, and they just stall out time until the referee breaks them up. That's what the large majority of fighters do. Kevin Holland's like, you know what? I absolutely do not care that I am not defending myself and this dude's doing great upon me. I will go and out-hit him more than he will hurt me. I will hurt him more than he hurts me. And that is what Kevin Holland did. The second he was taken down, elbows to the temple of the head of Jacare Souza. And watching this, I'm like, oh my goodness. Somebody is actually defending themselves. Somebody is actually putting in the effort from bottom position. Like, these fighters who get taken down overthink this way too much. They're thinking, they're trying to hold a limb, they're trying to find a way to go or take, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't get it. I don't get why a lot of fighters, when they're taken down, they just don't try to fight back through striking. They try to out-grapple their way out from bottom position, or use the cage to get up, or they're trying to, like, you know, wrestle their way and somehow get themselves onto guard or mount position. And for the most part, they typically fail. Congratulations for Kevin Holland doing the thing that I believe more fighters should do, and actually throw out elbow strikes, go strike from the bottom, disorient your opponent on top, make them as uncomfortable as possible, working from top position, so then you can go and overtake them. Either you can go for a takedown, or you can go and, you know, force him to stand up. Or in this sense here, for Kevin Holland, he was able to knock out his opponents from full guard position. Congratulations, Kevin Holland, for using your head. I am happy with you, and I am excited to see what the future holds for Kevin Holland. Jacare Souza, he let his guard down, and he let Holland overtake him. You're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast, coming back after the short break here. See you soon.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And we are back. And so before I get to the news brief portion of the podcast here, let me do a quick review of UFC 256. So we have Deiveson Figueiredo defending his belt against Brandon Moreno. He was able to defend it via majority decision. We have Charles Oliveira defeating his clone and Tony Ferguson after 3 rounds of action by unanimous decision. We have Mackenzie Dern defeating Vernon Janaroba by unanimous decision. We have Kevin Holland knocking out Jacare Souza. And we have Sergio Gans defeating Junior Dos Santos. And in the prelims here, we have one of my personal favorites, and Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson defeating his Daniel Pineda via KO in the second round. Renato Moicano losing to Rafael Fiziev by KO in the first round. We have Gavin Tucker defeating one of my personal favorites in Billy Quarantillo. And Tisa Torres defeating Sam Hughes. That was UFC 256. And coming up next week, We have UFC Fight Night. Thompson versus Neal. We have Stephen Thompson against Jeff Neal. I'm going to say right now, Jeff Neal's going to win this fight against Stephen Thompson. I'm going to say this right now. Jeff Neal is going to defeat Wonder Boy Stephen Thompson in the second round. And then we have Marlon Chito Vera versus Jose Aldo. That is a complete toss-up of a fight. I do not know who's going to win that one. We have Michael Pereira against Calvin Williams. Marlon Moraes against Rob Font. Jillian Robertson against Talia Santos. Talia Santos is winning that. She should. She should win that. And I'm gonna be honest right now. It might be the fight of the night. It might be the worst fight or the best fight. We have Marcin Tybura versus Greg Hardy at heavyweights, and that fight is going to be the opening fight of the night. Wow, just wow! That is gonna be. It's gonna be something. It will be something. Meanwhile, what's going on here as Dana? So, if you don't know, so Logan Paul, he'll be fighting against Floyd Mayweather. Jake Paul, he challenged Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has no response, and Dana White went on to say that Amanda Nunes will knock out Jake Paul. Yeah, 100%. Did you see that fight he fought against Crypto Nate Robinson? Nate Robinson fought like a homeless dude who was on something, to which he didn't really go for a punch. More like he flailed his arms in front of him. And like, he didn't defend himself. Nate Robinson was punching the air. It was bad. It was really, really bad here. And I'm like, who am I to judge, right? Well, guess what? I actually did some boxing training. I did. And I can guarantee you right now, my punches are 100% better than Nate Robinson's, alright? Then I would do far better than Nate Robinson in a boxing match against Jake Paul. By miles. And I'm saying this is a person who actually did boxing. Although, not professional boxing, but I've done enough training in boxing to know what I can and can't do, and I'm pretty darn sure I can do a better jab, or a better hook, or a better overhand, more so than Nate Robinson. But, going back, we have Amanda Nunes saying she can knock out Jake Paul. Pretty sure that can happen. Pretty sure she can do that. And by the way, that's a good job on Logan Paul, man. Like, somehow getting a chance to go fight against Floyd Mayweather, he ain't gonna get knocked out. It's gonna end via draw. It's gonna be an exhibition where Floyd Mayweather wins. It ain't gonna be a possibility of Logan Paul winning. It's gonna be either a draw or it'll be a draw or just Floyd winning by points. Honestly, I don't expect much coming from that fight. And so we got here, coming in from MMA Junkie, Tito Ortiz, tenure as a city council member already is a train wreck. This is being written in by Simon Simano from the Blue Corner. Here at the Blue Corner, we don't pay attention much to Tito Ortiz because, quite frankly, he is not worth the time. Ortiz is a UFC Hall of Famer, one of the most important figures at all in mixed martial arts. But these days, he's become known more for being, for denying COVID. Alright then. So, the December 7th report here, to which Tito Ortiz, he's struggling to do his oath. Alright, then there's a lot of pressure. And also Tito Ortiz, he's not really good at doing promos. He's a great character, he's a great personality, but talking ain't what made him great as a character. Tito gets sworn into the Huntington Beach City Council member, because he actually is a city council member. Good on him for that. He later got sworn in as a Huntington Beach mayor for pro tem. Tito starts joking about the pandemic. He starts calling it the plandemic. In his first public comments as Huntington Beach mayor, pro tem, Tito thanks Huntington Beach residents that gave him an opportunity to speak in front of large groups. Then he makes fun of COVID, saying it ain't real. He tries to sound smarter than he actually is. And, which leads to other outlets straight up making fun of Tito Ortiz. Alright then, and he's still trash-talking people. Alright then. Tito Ortiz, you do you, man. You do you. But let's go from one guy with a wild personality to another dude with a wild personality. And this fighter here with a wild personality here, well, he actually did something nice for once. And that is coming from MMAJunkie.com, that Conor McGregor saves SBG affiliate gym from closing because of COVID-19 lockdowns. And I put down here, so this is being written by general MMA staff members here, MMA Junkie staff members. Conor McGregor is doing his best to keep the Irish MMA scene strong, even if it means having to dig into his own pockets to throw out a lifeline. Philip Mulpter, owner of SBG in County Lois, Ireland, an affiliate of Conor McGregor's hometown SBG Ireland in Dublin, recently posted that gym would have to permanently be closed its doors because of financial stress brought to you by COVID-19 pandemic. Lockdowns in the country crippled the gym's ability to do businesses, and it is told, he told ESPN the circumstances were too much for him to survive. We've had 3 lockdowns now, and I think after each lockdown, it's hard to get the same numbers back in. People lose the routine, and just our numbers were dropping. Every time there was a new lockdown, we got deeper and deeper into debts. Our landlord wasn't giving us any break on the rent or anything like that. We had to decide to shut the doors for good. Then, Conor McGregor comes in to save the day here. So, Multer revealed a few days after his initial announcement about closing the gym that McGregor had become aware of the situation and contacted him. The former UFC lightweight and featherweight champion offered financial aid, and although he did not reveal specific numbers, Multer emphasized his appreciation. I didn't know what to say to him, to be honest. I'm forever grateful to him. He basically saved our little community. Words can't express what he's done for us. I know that he gets bad press. People don't report it, but he does this stuff all the time. Conor is not looking for gratitude. He's not looking for the media to spread this around. Conor plans on entering his son into our promotion, Gaelic Athletic Martial Arts. He knows, really? Yeah, how old is his son? Like a year old only? He knows that what we're doing for the community, he's just feeling bad for us, and he wants to keep MMA alive. During this hard time, MMA is going through a rebuild in Ireland for COVID-19. It's great to have somebody like Conor McGregor that's pushing and going to help us get back to where we were. So, Conor McGregor, good on you, mate, for helping. Conor McGregor, the dude's rich. All right, then he's rich, and Conor McGregor, I don't know what else he wants. I really don't know. Conor McGregor brags about the money he makes, but he's never showed off as to what he exactly really wants in Ireland. So he had some extra money lying around. He was able to help this gym out. Good on him, dude. Good on him. Okay, so fans mock Jake Paul for water balloon drive-by of Dylan Dennis. Dylan Dennis gets punked by Jake Paul water balloon drive-by. Okay, I'm not... Okay, what else is going on here? What else is going on in the world of mixed martial arts? Alright then. UFC boss Dana White offers blunt response to Jake Paul Conor McGregor fight. Of course, he would go better. Honestly, I don't want to pay attention to these guys. I don't. Any real professional fighter would defeat either of these two boys. These boys just want the money. It's understandable. I get it. But come on here. I want to report on real sports news here. Give me something. So, the Deiveson Figueiredo fight versus Moreno. So, there's according in from the manager of Deiveson Figueiredo that Deiveson nearly didn't fight against Brandon Moreno at all. So, he wanted to say that apparently Figueiredo was sick. It started after Figueiredo, he had problems making weight to 125 pounds. He said when he ate this, he had bad soup apparently. He said when he had bad soup, everything fell apart. He threw up a little bit, and it started the nightmare. We get from there, we go directly to the hospital. Ismail said Figueiredo, Ismail, who's the manager of Figueiredo, was in the hospital between 2:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Friday. Figueiredo went back to his hotel room and slept until 10 p.m. That's when he woke up with his stomach bloated. His belly is that size. Just imagine him with his hands extended like that size, huge. Everybody was like, he's not going to fight. I called the UFC and said, hey man, the guy is really bad right now. We get to the hospital at 2:30 a.m. Unbelievably, he said he could feel a lot of pain. I said the fight is gone. Figueiredo was still in pain in the morning, but eventually started to feel better. After debating whether the fight should happen, Ismail said that he and Figueiredo discussed what the UFC had given him, the opportunity to become a champion and take care of his family in Brazil. He wanted to save the pay-per-view, Ismail said. He looked at me, yes, I'm going to do it. Now he is going to fight the mindset of everybody is war, we're going to war. Ismail said that with Figueiredo weakened, a quick finish would be needed for this fight. Figueiredo said he was thinking along the same line. And when you look at the fight actually now, yeah, Figueiredo was not at all a patient fighter. He was fighting incredibly recklessly. So was Moreno. And reasons as to Figueiredo, he wanted to end the fight as quick as possible because he wasn't at 100%. Alright, I get it. But it's really interesting knowing that now, that Figueiredo was purposely fighting kind of reckless and leaving himself open as it means to finishing the fight early. So, this one goes on to say, Figueiredo says, my feeling is in the locker room was like an animal, furious like a tiger. My mindset was to knock out the guy. But unfortunately, I cannot do that. Figueiredo was in attack mode in the early rounds, but Moreno was able to hung in. Ismail said that the best round was in the 5th round. So, Deiveson Figueiredo, he was sick in his fight, had an insanely impressive performance against Moreno here. Now we got to think here on how would Deiveson Figueiredo do if he was at 100% healthy fighting against Moreno and wasn't purposely trying to end the fight early off the basis of sickness. What would happen? Well, we don't really know though, do we? But I would say that here's the thing. If these two were to fight again, I would put my money on Figueiredo winning. Because not knowing that he wasn't on 100%, knowing the fact that Figueiredo might have won the fight if he didn't go for the low shot onto Moreno and he got negative points, Figueiredo would have won. He would. Now, I still want to see the fight be run back, though. It would be a really fun rematch. I believe Figueiredo would win that. But still, it would be a very fun, very tight and close rematch and be exciting. And so, I found a report here to which Wonderboy Stephen Thompson, he did do an interview for MMA Fighting. And he ended up saying that he believes that UFC looks at him as a gatekeeper. I look at him as a gatekeeper right now. And if Wonderboy Stephen Thompson can't beat Neil, and I expect Neil to knock out Wonderboy Stephen Thompson in the 2nd round here, then I'm wrong. But right now, at the current standing where Wonderboy Stephen Thompson is currently, I see him as a gatekeeper. He could defeat Neil, and he can prove me wrong. But right now, the path for Wonderboy Stephen Thompson, he's really smart in that he's able to go make his money online via YouTube and appearing as a guest for other videos, making alternative income. Good on him for that. Wonderboy Stephen Thompson, he can definitely be successful and make a whole lot of money, not even being a UFC fighter. He can go on to do other things, do more media work. But for Wonderboy Stephen Thompson, he definitely is the underdog for next week's fights. And if he doesn't want to be seen as gatekeeper, then he really needs to go and defeat Neil in a really good showcase of his skills. And we need to see how good is he, and is he good enough to be that champion that many thought he would be. And so that will bring us to the end of today's podcast. You have been a great audience. All I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC MMA podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts MMA Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.